Dangerous!
The majestic sounds of the James Bond chord.
I love it, and welcome back to Andertons TV. Welcome back, Mr. Greg.
A pleasure,
my
friend.
It's been ages, but of course it hasn't, because I saw you at the weekend at Guitar Summit. But
That's
prior
true.
to that, it had been ages.
It's been, of course, in the before times, before the great pestilence.
The great pestilence, yes, absolutely. Wiped out the entire guitar playing community.
Yeah.
But we're back.
We are back.
With a vengeance.
That's right.
Well, look, I mean, you're touring at the moment relentlessly.
Yes, it's been crazed, but we're having a good old time.
I saw Mr. Koch Jr. with his leg in a boot. What happened there?
Well, it's an abusive ensemble. No, actually, we were in the bowels of Austria, and I got this new road case for the Tone King Imperial, and they just have, instead of 2 latches on the front and 2 latches on the back, latch here, latch there, and we're loading out, and I put it together, like, oh, I think it's all latched up. And then I went upstairs to get some stuff, and Dylan, being a nice, industrious lad, was going to help old Dad with putting the particular case in the vehicle, and it opened, and the thing just fell out and went skadoidle right on his foot. And I heard a level of profanity that I thought, well,
of all the members of the band, for it to happen to as well, it's the one that actually has to use his feet most often.
Luckily, it was his left foot, and where we were at, the guy had like a foot kind of support thing, medical implement, and had cold compresses and the whole 9 yards, and gave him some meds, and by God, away we went.
So the boot's that hasn't even been prescribed by a proper doctor. That's
No.
just a boot a guy happened to have at the venue.
Exactly.
That's the upside of touring in Europe. They're just so prepared for
Indeed.
every eventuality.
Prepared for battle.
And how do you do it, man? How do you tour? Like, you've been touring for a long time. We said just before camera, I think we first met while you were doing Fender stuff nearly 30 years ago.
Yes.
And it's been a sort of a relentless obsession, passion of yours, hasn't it? Just get out there and do stuff.
Well, what was weird is that, I have 4 kids. Dylan's the oldest of my 4, and he's just about to turn 30. My youngest just turned 21. So when they were younger, I didn't tour as much with the band. I did like Fender stuff, Hal Leonard stuff. I might do 2 weeks out of the year in Europe touring, because I actually had an agent over in Europe. Getting an agent in the States, I don't care what anyone says, it's the hardest. Getting record deals, no problem, but getting a booking agent that'll actually book you and knows about routing and the whole 9 yards, it's extraordinarily difficult. So that didn't actually happen until like right before COVID.
Right, okay.
So prior to that, most of my traveling and stuff would have been, we would go out with the band, as I said, and do like workshops and stuff, but it would be going out to Wildwood, it'd be doing clinics, so on and so forth. But the vast majority of the stuff was that, not really just gigging, right? So right before COVID, I was doing a live stream, and there was a guy that was tuning in, and people are like messaging in the live stream, like, how come you're not playing in Poughkeepsie? And how come you're not playing in Cleveland? And I'm like, well, you see, I've made a list of all the places I absolutely refuse to play, and unfortunately you're on it. I was like, no, actually, we don't have an agent that can book us there. So this guy was watching, and Mike Krug, bless you, and he's like, he booked a couple of big national country bands. He goes, I book country bands, but I'm a guitar player, and I'd like to take a stab at booking you guys. So right before COVID, he booked us a tour. One of his adjacents booked a tour for us, and we went out, and we packed up the Honda Odyssey with, the Leslie and the Hammond, and I brought a couple of amps and Dylan's drum kit and merch and all of our personal belongings. We fit it all into a Honda Odyssey, and we headed west, and we did this tour out west, and we came back, and I looked at the numbers like, my God, we've made money. And we're like, awesome, this is actually going to work. We got someone who can book us. We've got kind of a machine together to do it. And then COVID hit.
Yes.
And then we were out. But what we did is that we did like 4 live streams a week.
Wow.
Wildwood kind of underwrote 2 of them. Fishman did the other 2. And then we would do, on the weekends, we'd just do the band playing and taking tips, which for a while were quite robust, which was great. So many people saw those live streams that when we started to do gigs after and book tours, like people would come out it's like, you got us through COVID. We loved watching your things. We can't wait to come out and see them. And then they see the band live, and they're like, oh my God, this is so much different. What, different from watching it on a little screen on your phone?
You think?
And so it's been awesome. And so we've been able to kind of marry this idea of, we don't play places where like, oh, look, there's a band here. They're specific, showcase venues where the only people there are coming to see you. And we play early-ish, 8 o'clock, And I work the merch booth. I worked the merch booth before, and then people are like, you do your own merch? I'm like, we will sell 3 times as much stuff if I sell the merch. And we've got tons of stuff that we sell. I sell my Gristle King pedals. Of course, all the records, the beanies I wear, T-shirts, the whole 9 yards. People come up and they just want to support the cause.
Yeah.
And then you're meeting all these people in person that have seen you online. And then once you've kind of hung out with them, it's like, they're your buddies forever, and they'll always come back. And then they bring their significant others and so on, and they see the band, and like, oh my God, we thought this was going to be some kind of, guitar nerd fest, but this is funky stuff. We like this music. I'm like, yeah, thanks.
I think that is the advantage of having a slightly older demographic for your audience as well.
Yes.
They're quite happy to come to the merch table and do $100 or whatever on the stuff they
No
want.
question.
So
no question.
Well,
there's times where we'll sell, 10 pedals in a night, which, that's a lot of extra skrill.
I was going to say as well, tips and stuff for bands that are maybe thinking about doing that. It really is feeling that you can maximize every, whether that's doing VIP meet and greets beforehand.
Exactly, that works great. Yep.
Like you say, a real wide selection of merch if you can, And I think it's a great shout. That's who you want at the merch table at the end, is the band, isn't it? That's what you want to queue for.
Right.
That's great, man. And when's it, how much longer until you're back home?
Well, we came over here, this is week 5, I think. It's
quite a long tour, isn't it?
Yes, it's a long one. We don't usually go out this long. Usually, it's a couple weeks, a month is usually about as long as we'll go out.
Getting washed relatively regularly, or do we?
We figure out ways. So yesterday was wash day. So we were in Deutschland.
Good washing facilities in. If you're going
we were able
somewhere, do it in Germany.
Yeah. That was not an issue. So it just works out. And a little cue for you folks. When I go to Europe, I only pack 12 days worth of clothes.
Right.
Because anything more than that, your bag's going to be too heavy. And it's too much laundry to do when you get a chance to do it. So, 12 days.
I saw you outside I saw your post outside the laundrette.
Yes.
So it's rock and roll. Here we are. Oh, look, well, that's great. And I'm sure you're looking forward to getting home. Does the tour carry on as soon as you get home, or have you got?
No, we got a little bit of a break. We've got. I do have to play the weekend afterward. A buddy of mine who's got a cool blues horn band back home was like, hey, would you fill in for Perry when you get home? I'm like, yeah, I'll do that because it's a fun band. So I'm going to do that. And then like 2 weeks later, we've got a private party down in Nashville. So we're going to go down and do that. And then I'll probably go out to Wildwood the week after that. And then a week after that, we leave for about a 2-week tour of going out east, heading out to New York and so on and so forth. So it never ends. But that's good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's be fair. Nobody's making any money streaming anything anymore.
Well, there's that.
So, yes, you've got to get out there, press the flesh, meet the public, do things in real life.
And plus, it's awesome. I mean, there's people like, people my age will be like, how do you do it? I mean, how do you go out there? And I was just like, listen, it's just Toby, me, and Dylan most of the time. We have Mighty Dudley here in England, who's magnificent. Having that extra hand is awesome. But when we're at home, it's like, Dudley's like, well, we'll figure out the hotels when we get there, like, think it was a big deal. That's what we do every day. We just figure things out on the fly. You guys want to stop here? You want to do that? It's like you're in complete freedom. You show up and you get to play your music. The people that are coming here want you to do your thing. And, and at the end, you're like, I'm in my hotel room by 11 o'clock. Calling the wife, just saying, hey, it was a great night, things were great, so on and so forth, and away you go. And you eat great food, you see the country, it's awesome.
Let's talk about gear.
Yes.
Because you are heroically flying the flag for real amps and pedals and all this kind of stuff, despite the fact that you need to try and fit everything inside the back of your little Honda van.
Well, actually, I have a new vehicle. The new Gristle missile is an impressive device.
Is it?
Yes. Mighty Ford Transit 250.
Extra space.
Indeed.
Phenomenal. You could take 3 amps.
And sometimes.
So we've kind of got like half your touring rig plugged in here. So we're using Tone King Royalist as the main amp, and you've got a Tone King Imperial that if you're live you'd use as a stereo set.
Well, actually what I do is I usually just use the Royalist.
Right.
But if I'm playing in a smaller room, or if I have to do a workshop or something, I'll bring in.
Okay, so it's an either or thing rather than a both.
Exactly. And what I usually do at home is I use a Royalist with an extension cabinet. So I have the combo, and I've got a single 12 extension cabinet. But the whole time I've been in Europe, I've just used the single 12 combo, and it's been awesome.
Yeah. And is the appeal of both these amplifiers the attenuator? Because you can kind of leave your sound exactly how you want and just dial the attenuator to the setting.
Totally. And I've done different things with both amps actually. So there was a while there where I was using both channels, and I'd kind of set one of them more the JTM 45 setting, and then the other one like on the 1970 setting, which kind of gives in, and then I'd crank the one and not have the other one quite as cranked. And it was a nice little channel switching thing, but I just don't want to deal with, delays in front. And plus, there's something viscerally more powerful about hitting a pedal in front of an amp.
Yeah.
It may not sound better. It sounds better in the studio to just crank an amp, but when you're live and you're playing and you want that push over the edge, the pedal just feels way different.
Yeah.
So I just basically set the amp clean. I set it on about, like 3-ish. Turn off the mucky muck here so you can hear it. Oh. And that's on that JTM 45. It's got a nice give to it. And from there, I will use, because this amp has no reverb, but it's weird, like back in the day, I remember I didn't use reverb at all. And then at some point, I discovered reverb. But I don't like a ton of it, I just like a little bit. Like even when I'm using the Imperial, I'll just have the reverb on maybe like 2.5-ish, just a little moisture.
Okay.
But when I'm using this amp, a lot of times I'll just have none, or I'll just add on a little bit of the delay. Just a little bit of something. So. And then on top of that, I might hit like a longer delay. There's different settings. We'll get into this beast.
We'll get into this. I know obviously this is a very versatile amplifier with sort of Marshall-inspired tones from across the ages.
Right.
But are you... we're not hugely dissimilar age, and I sort of feel like, why did no one discover that the JTM had such a monstrously good clean sound until about 5 years ago?
I don't know.
Why is it that, like, is it just that, in the 80s, like Marshall was just JCM 800, and even in the 70s, to be fair, it was all Deep Purple and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And like it just seems like the JTM in the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years maybe, everyone's just gone, holy moly, it's got the snap, it's got the sparkle, it's just the clean sound that we've all been chasing Fender to find.
Right.
Was the Marshall, in the original Marshall,
Exactly.
How does that work?
It's interesting because it's like an English version of a Bassman.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Bassmans are one of my favorite amps of all time. And one of the things I discovered about Bassmans that Fender sends it and it has that little placard on the top like suggested settings. I'm like I need to be told what to do. But they have this setting on there where you go into the bright channel and you crank the presence, the mids all the way up, and then the treble all the way off, and the bass all the way off, and then you just dime the amp till about 7, and it's the greatest sound.
Wow.
I mean, you kind of add a little bit of bass or whatever, but it sounds weird, but it sounds glorious. So I've just experimented with setting things up in different ways. Like for instance, this one I set up with...
So you've dialed the treble all the way back, but the middle and the bass all the way in and the presence back. So
exactly.
That's quite a bit darker than I thought it would be.
Yeah. But it's got that snap, but it's not the blizzard of nails. So when I hit the overdrive... Sorry, I turned up a little bit. Security, we got an 09er. We got an 09er in progress. I mean, that's pretty viscous.
I love it. We don't have time to go through the Royalist in detail, but there is a video on Andertons TV where you can go and see me and Pete go through it. But that's a phenomenal sounding amplifier.
Yeah.
very, very usable too. The 2 attenuators in it is a genius idea.
Love it.
And unique,
and I do use them.
I think. But there's we might as well, what do you want to do next? Guitars or pedals next?
We can do pedals first. Yeah.
So we've both got a new Jam creation at our feet.
Yes.
Yours is bigger and more sparkly than mine, and I believe mine is essentially a cut down version of yours, right?
Correct.
So let's just talk about, firstly, like, is why the right question? I mean, it's because it is multi-effects, but not like in the realms of MIDI and programming and all that kind of stuff. It's just all your favorite pedals in one big board, right?
Right. Well, so years ago, I met Giannis from Jam Pedals. I remember he reached out to me before the Gothenburg Guitar Show, probably 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, a long time ago. And I think it may have even been on MySpace that he reached out to me saying, hey, I'm going to the show. I'm a fan of yours. Would you be interested in trying out these pedals? And I said, yeah, we're playing this gig, at this club before the thing starts. And he came and he brought me this pedal board. And I used it for the gig, and I thought, these pedals are awesome. So I've been a big fan of his for a long time. And then I had a multi-effect. Their artwork that they do is awesome as well.
Yes, very, very cool.
And I had this multi-effect of theirs that looked like a little Fender Tweed amp, and I used that, and that was awesome. But then I go in phases where it's just guitar, chord, amplifier, done. So I wasn't using a bunch of pedals. And then during COVID, during lockdown, I'm messing around with different things during the live stream. Started using pedals again. And then when I started gigging again with the band, I put together a pedal board, and I was using a bunch of different Jam pedals on a lot of other things. And then they reached out to me and said, hey, we're thinking about doing a signature multi-pedal with you. What do you think? And so we just started spitballing about what I would all want on it. And then what would make sense for a smaller version that maybe would be more of a throw and go, 4 pedals, be done with it. And then what would make sense to have everything on it that I could ever possibly want. And then we were discussing names, and I came up with various, iterations of gristle-infested names, and they just came up with Koch Ness Monster. I'm like, all right.
Yes, it's a great name for a pedal. It really is. Was it pretty easy to cut down, to decide which pedals you would want on a board? Or, let me see, what have we got? Take us through the pedals that are on here, and then we...
Well, first and foremost, their wah is my favorite wah. So
right.
the Waco is killer, and it's got an attenuator on the side, not an attenuator, but, the various different notches of iterations of wah. It's great. It's killer. One of the things I always use, and it's the only thing that we didn't have on here, is I like some kind of a rotating. Mm-hmm. And I use the Neo Instruments ventilator for years.
Yep.
And they're like, well, we got some other things that maybe you would like other than that. And so what I found is I use their Waterfall Chorus, which is a super cool chorus pedal. But I use that as kind of my Leslie effect, and it cuts through better. But it's also got some other features on it. If I switch that, gets all kinds of... So if I go back here, and then it's got a vibrato on it as well. Totally delish. So that's been one of my favorite pedals of theirs forever. The Waterfall is just a killer pedal. But I usually have it set up like this. So when I'm doing my comping, there it is, ready to go, right? So then they have that pedal that they worked on with the pedal show guys, the Harmonious Monk.
It's a great pedal. I had that on my board for a while. That's a very cool sounding pedal.
Which is awesome, and I've got it... Have it set up more kind of like that. A nice little flavor there. So that's kind of like another flavor of Leslie-ish effect, if you will. Then I use one of their delay llamas. This is a simplified, just regular delay llama. And I use this for my slap back type of a thing. I usually do one repeat.
Yep. That's almost your sort of if in need of reverb.
Exactly.
There
I
it
hit
is,
that.
just to
exactly.
fill
Just
it
to
out
give
a little bit.
So here's this just bone dry, and I just hit. A full band's playing, you don't really. It's just kind of there.
And if you can't use effects loops and stuff like that, you don't want too much going in the front end of the amplifier, do you? It just gets messy.
Correct, Amundo. Now, right next to it is the Delay Llama Extreme. Now, this one has a variety of different tasty morsels on board. And we've got a few presets. I could just use it as kind of set it as a longer delay. If I hit this button, I get more of this thing that I kind of use for... Now, the
modulation coming from there is great.
Yeah, they got the ability to go deep dive in here and mess with all kinds of different stuff. One of my other little presets on here is my Tonus Diabolic. One repeat at the same volume. So that's awesome.
That technique, I've heard you do it before. Where did that come from? Who did you? Is that borrowed or?
Well, what's funny is that Eddie Van Halen did it, but I didn't get it from him.
Right.
I was at a NAMM show in the early '90s, and I walked into this booth. Remember when Yamaha was doing Saldano designed tube amps for a hot minute there? This is like
maybe
91, 92, something like that. And anyway, the guy that was championing him was this Blues Saraceno. Remember Blues Saraceno?
Yes.
Yeah. Great guitar player. So I walked into this room and it was
I saw his son at Guitar Summit.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. At least I think it was Pete and Ori was talking to him. I said, "Who's that?" He says, "Blues Saraceno's son." So if it wasn't, then I blame Pete. But yeah, he's involved with some massive We Will Rock You touring.
Interesting.
Thing. But yeah, anyway,
so I walked into this room and he was kind of messing around and he had that kind of a delay sound. And I thought, that's cool, I should mess around with that. So I was back at home, and this was back in the day when we had answering machines with little cassette recorders, and you felt compelled to leave a guitar playing message on your answering machine.
Right.
So one day I was going there. Not in right now. If you leave a message, I'll go right back to you. So I left that message, and people were like, "Dude, you should make a tune out of that." So I did.
It's such a downloadable ringtone. If is that even a thing? That's what we need. I like that very much. I remember sort of seeing Albert Lee do something, but I don't think.
The sync thing.
He's still playing. He was literally
he's a demon.
The weekend just gone, playing literally like a village hall. Dudley, you probably even man, the guy's a machine.
He's the whole reason why I got into that style of playing. You know, I heard him playing on that Just One Night Eric Clapton live record that came out in 1980, and the solos like he did on Further On Up the Road and Cocaine and Setting Me Up. It's like I'd hear Clapton do his solo. I was like, this sounds cool. And this other guy plays like, that's not the blues scale. And then I did the deep dive on Albert Lee and all who he played with, and awesome. Anyway,
level. Right.
Let's see what else we got. This is another cool sound on here I've been having a lot of fun with. So sometimes this is one of Yanni's really into electronica.
Okay.
And so he comes up with all kinds of weird things. We can do this thing where it's like,
just about to go into one of my favourite Stone Temple Pilots songs ever. That little chord progression. It's a great tune. But yes, that's a cool sound.
It's
isn't
cool,
it?
isn't it?
Like pitch shifting on the delays and I don't think I've ever. So obviously I'm familiar with the delay Llama as a standalone delay pedal. Is the one that's in the top left there available as a standalone?
It is, yes.
It is as well.
The Delay Llama Extreme.
Right, okay, cool. Are all of these pedals essentially
Yeah, they're
available?
all made individually available. So this is basically 10 of their cool pedals. The only thing that's in here that's not available in the Jam line as a standalone pedal is my Gristle King pedal.
Yes.
But we thought if we were going to do a pedal that truly was everything I use, that we had to have one in there. So we made sure everyone was cool with it, and by God, we put one in there. So the second tier is kind of, with the exception of the Univibe, which is my favorite, which is the Retro Vibe.
And I'm assuming that the signal path is going what sort of wire into the Retro Vibe along the bottom row and then ending with the delay Llama at the end.
Right? Is that how it's going? Yeah. Delicious. That's my favorite sound.
And can you show, just because I think it's interesting, how that sort of heavy modulation, if you apply it before a drive tone, sounds very different to applying the modulation through the chorus after the drive tone.
I think they're all going to be after, right? Is that the way it's? It's all before.
But if we switch the Retro Vibe off now, but leave the drive pedals on and put the chorus over the top.
Oh, I got you.
That'll be like
an
after thing. If you do it afterwards, it doesn't modulate the amount of gain in the same way, does it? So you've got much more interesting sort of layers to the sound, I think, if you do the modulation before.
Right.
But I guess it's just all...
It's all apples and oranges at that point. It's a buffet.
A buffet,
It's a buffet of sonic capabilities. So you just heard that. That's the Gristle King that I hit. So if this is the amp, just kind of clean. That's the clean boost. And then the gain on top. I mean, that's pretty much where I spend most of the time. But I've been having a lot of fun using this Eureka fuzz of theirs, which is kind of a combination of like a big muff and a fuzz face. And what's nice about that, if I put the clean boost on with my Gristle King, hit this. And very usable, because you know how it is when you're in overdrive, then you hit a fuzz, and the fuzz sounds like a transistor radio that's being defiled by an unwilling source.
I go so hot and cold on fuzz. Sometimes I'm using it, I think it's the greatest distortion sound I've ever had.
Right.
And then I'll listen to another video, it's the shittest guitar sound
it's
ever had.
It can be, I know exactly what you're saying. And I think this one, because it's some kind of a mutant love child of a fuzz face and a big muff, that it's more usable, it's more compliant, or it compares well with the overdrive of the Gristle King. And then on top of that, we've got over here their Lucy Dreamer, which is Tube Screamer-esque, but what's nice about it is there's a mix control, so you can mix your dry signal in with the actual Tube Screamer-ish tone. Oh, sorry about that. I hit the fuzz at the same time with my big ass foot. See? boost on top of that for that. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll have the clean boost on, the Gristle King, and then I'll hit the Lucid Dreamer. And then when I really want to be a knob, I'll hit the Gristle King on top of that. And that's kind of a potent.
Going back to the amp again, I think there are certain amps that work well with a mix control on a drive pedal.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find like if you can actually distinctly hear a clean sound and a drive sound, I sort of feel like it doesn't sound right somehow. But if you can get that mix thing, so you can't really distinguish between the two sounds, it just sounds like a drive sound with maybe a bit more bite and clarity.
Exactly.
And that works really well.
Yes.
But I do think sometimes you need the right amplifier to get that to work with
I think
as well.
you are. I think
What's
you are
the
correct.
final one then?
The final one is the Boomster, which is like it's like a treble booster. Am I right?
A clean boost with some frequency options.
Yeah. So this one's quite potent. Really brings the sparkle to the fore.
And that you would, again, Yanni, if you want to answer this, but I've always thought if I was going to have a treble boost, I'd have that right near the beginning of my chain and kind of boost everything into it. But you've got that's your final drive pedal, so
Yes.
you're sort of lifting and brightening
Yes.
rather than pushing more in.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And so sometimes what I'll use that in conjunction with. That's a majestic sound. So that is
Great sound.
the Lucy Dreamer, the clean boost on the Gristle King with the Boomster as well. So it's got everything you could ever possibly want. But on a given night, I mean, there's nights where I don't touch the wah, you know what I mean? There's nights where I don't touch this or whatever, but it's there if I want it. And but the Gristle King and the delays, I'm constantly using the Lucid Dreamer. I'm using them all. It's just nice to have them all there. Now the one that you're using has things are parsed out. So it's got a Lucid Dreamer to the far right. So you've got the Tube Screamer S effect.
Oh, let's take my, okay. So the reverb's coming from the amp now.
Okay. And so that's the Tube Screamer thing, and then you can have the boost on top of that.
And you said I can do stuff here.
Yeah.
That's got tons of sustain and compression on it as well. So that's the the Lucy Dreamer.
The Lucy Dreamer, yes.
Then we've got
the Eureka Fuzz.
Okay. And a little switch that goes from exclamation marks to lightning bolts and something in between.
Shapes the tone a little different. I have a tendency to like the setting with the rotund low end.
Yeah. That would be, I think, you're absolutely right as well. Those thicker, slightly more driven fuzzes are easier they're more consistent, aren't they, in what you're going to get from it. It's not like all of a sudden you're playing and it sounds like your pedal's
A dental
broken.
drill, exactly.
Yeah. That's cool. And then
the next one is the Harmonious Monk. That is correct.
Which I can adjust speed and
exactly the whole 9 yards. Yep.
Mid-range by the looks of things. It's a great pedal. It's a great pedal, and and of course it's got tap tempo. It's synced with the delay. Let's turn that off.
There you go.
They did it great, or Yanni and the guys from that pedal show did a great job with that.
Yeah, it's a great pedal.
I'm not sure I'd even really done that dive into all the different kinds of tremolo that there were, but that harmonic tremolo is the chewiest one, isn't it?
It is indeed.
It's a great pedal. And then, so yeah, as you just saw there, we can tap in the speed of the tremolo. We've got a delay with a separate tap tempo.
Yeah.
Which again, I love that analog kind of delay thing. And then, which I've never seen before, is a very cool, clever way of syncing the speed of the tremolo pedal to the
delay, exactly.
Delay as well, which is clever.
Yes.
So, what have I? So I've got.
You've got the Koch Ness Monster, and this is the Koch Ness Monster Supreme.
I see. And what's my S? Oh, send and return.
Oh yeah.
Presumably, just puts a pedal in between the drive pedals and the modulation stuff. You've got 5 sockets on the back of yours. What have we got here?
I think we've got some ability to have some expression pedal activity, a tap tempo thing.
Deluxe PSing, DTing, and BMLing.
Yeah, every time I see initials and holes, I just run screaming.
That'll be what they do. Will be on screen now. We'll leave it to our editing team.
But it does stuff where you can do a deep dive. But I just plug one chord in, one chord out the out.
I mean, I guess. So first and foremost, for all guitar players that just can't get their head around doing the dive into the world of helixes and chems and all that kind of stuff, of which I put myself in that camp, we're staying with pedal boards.
Yes.
So I guess if you look at the sort of pros and cons of this versus a pedal board, is the pros have got to be it's way neater. One power supply, no patch cables.
Right.
Smaller.
Right.
Lighter.
And
although it's a reasonable outlay in one go, it's still cheaper than buying all the pedals separately, right?
Exactly.
And then I guess if you want to, the downside is it's fixed, isn't it? It's like that's your set of pedals, and that's the order that they go in. And obviously, if you wake up tomorrow and find out that Jam have done a different chorus pedal that you like better,
correct.
It's like, well, there you go. I suppose you could use the send and return, couldn't you, if you really wanted to? But I guess that most people will be going, no, that's what I want.
Right.
Same with this. So if I remember rightly, and again, some of this one is not out until the end of the year.
That's correct.
Officially, isn't it? And this one I think is probably going to be out by the time the video goes live, or certainly sometime soon. This was about 700 euros, and this was about 2,000 euros, roughly speaking.
Right.
So obviously in His Majesty's even, it's going to take me years to get used to that one. Great British pounds will be less than that, obviously, quite a bit less actually, if our economy carries on doing well and the value of sterling stays high. But hey, so yeah, that's actually not, I'm just thinking that's probably going to come out around about the 600-y mark, which isn't too bad for all those pedals.
Right, exactly. If you priced out each individual pedal, it'd definitely be more. And then what I realized that was wild is that even, I got good cables and up with my pedal board at home that had all my individual pedals, great patch cable, high-end patch cables. And when I plugged this thing in deference to the other one, or just use this one instead, it was just without any pedals on at all. It was cleaner.
Yeah.
It was a
I think you could easily spend $700-800 on a nice power supply, a decent board, and all your patch cables.
Exactly. And there it is. It's all done.
There it is. Right. Guitars.
Yes.
Let's talk about. I mean, you've obviously been playing a Reverend signature guitar for. Crikey, has it been, are you doing your 10-year anniversary yet? Or am I sort of going, I've lost
that's a good
3
question.
years somewhere?
I want to say it's getting close to that.
I think it probably is, isn't it?
Yes.
And still using Fishman?
Yes,
Greg
so
Koch
the Fishman pickups, that's been a great relationship. They're fantastic. Larry Fishman he's just a stallion. He's just a cool cat. So we did the Gristletone, Fluence Gristletone pickups for T-style guitars, as they say. And then that set was available prior to this guitar being available. And then I started working with Reverend, and we started thinking about an idea of a signature guitar, and those ended up on this guitar. And then going forward from there, right before COVID, I had the idea for a set neck version of my guitar. So the bodies are slightly larger. They're 2 to 3% somewhere in between there.
As
Larger.
are you.
Yes.
2 to 3%, if
Yes.
you're, roughly-ish bigger than the average human being.
That's right. And so I did new P90s with Fishman, so they're, quiet in terms of impervious to cycle hum, excuse me. And there's also, there's always the button to get that second voice.
Yeah.
So this was a set neck version, more Gibson scale, ebony fingerboard with the Bigsby. I use these for slide now. Pretty much I just have it set to open G and I do my thing, and it's a chewy, delicious morsel. What you're holding in your hands there is the brand new iteration. And so what that is the...
Can I pass it to you to
Sure,
plug in?
absolutely.
And just sort of, I think people would much rather hear you playing it than me.
Grab this morsel.
Can I just, are these the regular inlays, or is this like a special one for you?
This guy in Germany made them for me.
Right, I was going to say.
Fretlook, I think they're called. And I met him at a clinic I did.
They're stickers, everybody.
They're stickers.
They're stickers.
Yes, but it's cool. And he put them on. I was like, okay. And they're the beanie.
I
They're
don't
my
know
beanie
if I got,
that I use.
Have I got mine? Yeah. Did I? This is, I used to use this guitar quite a lot in videos, and people would always go, "What? There's no fret markers on it, so we can't see what you're playing."
Right.
So I just got my Sharpie out. I drew some fret markers, and honestly, relentlessly after that, when's the new version of this coming out with the new super cool fret markers? I'm like, well, I kind of just drew them on with a felt tip pen. So this is how we roll here. So yeah, stickers and Sharpies.
It happens.
It's what it is.
So this beast, even though I've played tellies for years, Strat was my main guitar for a decade plus. And when we wanted to do what kind of the impetus was, is that I worked on Strat pickups with the Fishman folks. Their first pickups they put out, Fluence-wise, were the single width Fishman Fluence pickups, and they were their Strat pickups. And then Reverend came out with a guitar for my buddy Gil Paris from New York, great guitar player. And they made him kind of a Strat style guitar with those pickups in it. And they sent me one and I loved it because the Wilkinson stuff stays in tune. It sounds great, stays in tune. And then I thought, man, it'd be cool to do an S-style guitar. But I wanted to mess with the pickups a little bit. I love the single width pickups that Fishman made, but I had an idea. I mean, there were certain things I always liked about the old Clapton Strats with the lace sensors and that preamp. It had a thing. I didn't love everything about it, but there were certain things I liked about it. So we kind of started in that world and tweaked from there. So one thing I didn't like is I like the kind of hi-fi sound of the clean sound, but sometimes the low end farts out and the high end gets a little too sizzly. So I wanted to mitigate that a little bit. So we monkeyed around until we found a sound that we liked. And then I liked the idea of engaging that preamp, but when like Clapton hits that thing, it's like a 24 dB boost. It's a lot.
I've got 3 Strats that I've put that mod in.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about.
I freaking love that. It's so Eric Clapton.
Yes.
Like if you just play a cheesy Eric Clapton lick.
It sounds, there it is.
There it is.
Right.
But you're right, it's
a lot.
It's so noisy.
So
I wanted pickups.
I wanted a bit, but not all that much.
Okay, just the tip.
So just the tip. So when I hit this button, I get that second bit. So like in the first. It's got that kind of a sound, right? But what's nice is that the in-between sounds have that sparkle. Middle position sounds great. And then, of course, the bridge. The bridge pickup automatically sounds better. It's got a little bit more girth than a regular Strat pickup. Now, if I grab this.
Which Wilkinson trem have you put on?
I don't know which number it is.
Because
I never know.
I just changed another one of my guitars out for. I think there's a version of this where these Allen keys actually lock the string in, so it's almost like pseudo Floydy Rosy kind of thing. But
Yeah, this is not that.
It's not that one, is it?
No.
Yeah, I must admit, that's a great idea until you break a string, and then you go, oh damn it, you gotta do the thing. And
Correct. I will say that, because one of the things about playing Strats, I'm so anti-MacGyvery. I'm one of these guys where I always need people to work on my stuff. But to my credit, when I'm in situations where things go awry, I fix stuff. So on the way from Germany to the UK, I put this in my, I've got one of those Flying Scout 3 guitars next to each other, road cases that goes underneath the plane. And I thought, I'll just leave the whammy bar on. It was a bad choice. So they must have thrown it on its side, and then this hit the back of the other guitar, and the springs went flying, right? So I open up the case, and the strings are just slack. I'm like, oh my God, now the setup's gonna be messed up, and yada, yada, yada. But I figured, well, this seems to be floating on there a little bit. I think I'll just, put the string tension a little bit, and then I'll have to reattach, because the springs are already, all out. And I just put the springs back in, tuned it back up, it was perfectly fine. So I was like, awesome.
I saw Trev's latest invention, which is tremolo arm down here, tremolo
locks
locked,
it. Yep.
tremolo up here, tremolo working. That's clever.
He had a version of that back in the day. When I ordered my first Fender custom shop guitar back in 1991, I had that version. It locked into a thing, but it was a little fraught with peril back then. This is the new...
I'm glad you said that, because I'm sure I tried a Patrick Eggle guitar or something in the 90s that had that trem system, but there was something that when you engaged it, it was like the guitar was just immediately out of tune as soon as it kind of went to having any tension. So,
right.
But yeah, Trev's new one of that looks pretty cool.
Yes, it does. He makes great stuff. I've got his bridges on all the stuff. So, except for obviously this is the Bigsby, but on that one. So, you're holding.
This is Thank you so much again I know it's a little bit of a whirlwind whistle stop.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us on. Great to see you.
But that's cool. That's uber cool. In fact, that's uber cool, isn't it? I mean, who wouldn't want... It's a great color as well. How bad is the vanity when you start just going, I just want it because it looks cool.
Right. Well, then they made that creature that's on it, the actual Koch Ness.
You can have sort of marketing
I've got my own
campaigns.
Mascot. Savage aquatic warrior.
Little marketing campaigns, but just a tiny piece of the pedal board is just sticking out from the water. And
Yes.
somebody quickly photographs it with sort of like in a bad out of focus thing, and you go, is it?
Is it mythical? Does it exist?
Who
Does
knows?
it not?
Somebody told me, I don't know if this is trivia is right, that Loch Ness holds more water in it than every other lake and loch in the United Kingdom added up together.
I did not know that.
Apparently it's that deep. It's like, which is why obviously they think that Nessie
Dwells deep
is
within.
in there somewhere we can't find her. Probably.
Yes.
You
Then
never
Jim
know.
Page had that little lair that was on Loch Ness that
Did
was
he?
former property of
my
Aleister
God.
Crowley,
Can
where
you
I'm sure
imagine?
he engaged in wholesome activities.
If walls could talk,
Right.
that would make some memoir, wouldn't it? Anyway, before we get ourselves into any more trouble, come on, play us out with something. Choose any one of the 3 guitars that you've got here. But I've enjoyed your company, as I always do.
Likewise, my friend. Maybe I'll do just a little bit more of that Tonus Diabolica song for the kids.
Good for you.
I got to get the right sound on there.
The demo
Thank
guy
you, my
never,
friend.
The demo guy never leaves you, does it? The little ending. Cheers for tuning in. Links for everything you've seen in this video, including Greg, his band, and everything else he's up to, will be in the links below. Au revoir!